Hello, and welcome to Big Sister, a podcast about Big Brother. I am Jessica. Why don't we go around and introduce ourselves?
I'm Danielle.
And I'm Carly.
And we are three friends who love Big Brother. Some of us have been watching longer than others. Why don't we start with Carly, and Carly, tell us how you got into Big Brother.
So I've been watching Big Brother as long as I can remember. My mom told us that she used to watch it when she was breastfeeding my little sister. So the first season I remember really caring about was season 11, and so I've been watching it live ever since then.
Okay, season 11. Wow, that's about half the show.
Wow, that's watching half the show live. That's quite a long endeavor, honestly.
Yeah, it's a commitment. I used to put it in my calendar, like what days it was airing and when it was starting, so I would remember. It would give me a
Are
little
you now
reminder.
like you just got it memorized?
Oh yeah. It's like ingrained into the fiber of my being.
And Danielle, how did you get into Big Brother?
Well, I got into Big Brother because I was living with Carly. I knew Carly watched the show for so long. So Carly, Jessica, and I, we are all friends in real life, and in fact, two of us are sisters. We're all sisters, but two of us are sisters of each other, not sisters in general. That would be me and Jessica, and we're twin sisters. And Carly, we've known since, oh my gosh, before middle school, for a long, long time. But in college, Carly and I went to the same college, Go Knights, UCF, and we were roommates.
Charge on.
And I knew Carly watched the show way before I started watching, but I never really got interested until we started living together and watching it at the same time, and we'd talk about it. And that was season 20. I entered in halfway through season 20, finished the rest of the season with them, watched the old episodes, and then started binging them backwards. So I went from 20 to 19. I watched 18, and I watched 17. And I watched 16 as well. And then I stopped that, so this is kind of where it gets a little weird. I went to 10, watched half of 10, got really involved in a job, and now I've watched all of 2, and I'm working my way back up to meet myself up. So I've seen kind of this unorganized but close together number of seasons.
Yeah, so Danielle and I have only been watching Big Brother for about 2 years, as opposed to Carly's almost 10, or maybe over 10 by now. Yeah, so I found myself...
Yeah, I guess over 10
over
now.
10 now. I found myself in the same situation as Danielle, where that summer, I went to Orlando to spend some time with Danielle and Carly, and we just happened to be watching Big Brother 20 that time around. And I got really attached to it. So maybe we can do more formal introductions. I'll start. In college, I majored in political science, and I've never really seen a reality TV show that is as strategic as Big Brother, and I really latched onto that part of it. I felt I liked seeing the house guests interact with each other, and the thought that went into gameplay and the social politics with each other. I really liked that aspect of the show. So that's what drew me in. Now I am abroad in Japan, teaching English. I still make time to watch this show. I have been doing some rewatches recently. Yeah, I'm just so glad we could all be able to do this when we're all in 3 different time zones. It's a little challenging. Yeah, so Carly, where are you right now?
So I'm currently located in Fort Lauderdale area in Florida. I've never left Florida for like a permanent living situation, so I'm still here. I'm in dental school at Nova Southeastern University. Just finished my first year, and it was crazy. If you don't know anyone who's ever gone through dental school, the first year is just a lot. And Big Brother was something that got me through that first semester, at least the first couple months. I remember people asking me to study on like a Wednesday or Thursday night with them, and I'd be like, sorry, I need to go home because I need to watch Big Brother. So yeah, it's funny to think back because I've been watching it for so long, like what was important to me to watch back then versus now. I don't really remember what got me hooked on it in the first place. Of course, I love the strategy. I love watching the competitions and everything. But back when I was like in middle school, high school, I just cheered for the nice people because that was who I liked. I just liked seeing the nice people. The mean people, I was like, no. Because, I mean, I was like 11 or 12, whatever, you know. And now I really, since I've watched so much of it, I just have such a deep appreciation for the people that pull these big dramatic moves and just these shocking things, the people who cause the drama. Like, I definitely see the value of that now better than I did definitely when I first started watching it.
Yeah, that's what drew me in. I like watching the nice people, and I like rooting for them. But I think in order to win, it really takes that strategic mindset.
Yeah, I definitely resonate. I feel like with the people who are very nice and they're everyone's friend and they don't want to evict everyone and they get super emotional every night that someone gets evicted. Like Bunky from season 2. I really resonate that kind of attitude. But unfortunately, a lot of the times that's not the people that make the show interesting and, through the drama. Maybe they do through their personality, and then I think there's a niche there. Not only are you caring, but you're a personality that the show doesn't want to get rid of.
So where are you located, Danielle?
I am in graduate school. I'm doing a PhD program in population biology at UC Davis, which is in California. So, what is our mascot? Oh my goodness. I am the worst Aggie ever. That's the Aggies, or the Aggies.
Mascot's a seagull in my school in Japan.
How cute. Oh.
Mine's the sharks. We're the sharks.
The sharks. That's my favorite animal. Although
got an aquatic theme going
on our campus, which is very cool to bike past the cows on my morning commute.
Yeah. Did you remember?
Okay, so should we...
Did I remember?
The mascot.
It's the Aggie. We are the Aggies. Oh. That's our mascot. That's our whole ass mascot is the Aggies.
Weird.
Well, we're not the only school that has Aggies as their mascot. I think there's one in Texas.
Yeah.
Big one in Texas.
Yeah, Texas A&M.
Yeah.
What is that? I don't know what that is. I think maybe we should move on to what seasons we've seen. I know, Carly, you touched upon it a little bit. Danielle, you've touched on it a little bit. I have mostly done highlights of seasons that were considered interesting. So the season I started out with was 20. I finished 20, and then I watched season 17. Because I was excited about Vanessa as a player. And I also went back and watched season 10 because I heard that it was one of the best, and I can attest to that. It's very fun to watch, super entertaining. And I've filled in some of the blanks along the way. So I've seen season 10, some of season 11, season 12, some of season 15. I've seen season 16, 17, and 18, as well as 20 and a little bit of season 21 for reasons other than simple time restraints, and we'll get into that later. So what seasons have y'all seen? Maybe we can start with, I know, Carly, have you seen any outside of the most recent 11 seasons?
No, I haven't, and I would like to go back and watch them, especially right now. School has really chilled out, so I think I am going to spend some time on some BB. I'll probably start with season 10 or 2 and just kind of hop
Yeah.
around.
I think both of those are definitely good ones to watch.
Two, you really get to see how contrasting that old season and even like the early 2000s was. Like, just like I mentioned Bunky earlier, he had a coming out story in the house because there was a older man who openly spoke against people who are gay. He if that would not slide, I think, today. They would never have someone who said stuff like that. Especially with, the amount of people in the LGBTQ community increasing in representation. But it was a different time back then, and unfortunately, like, this guy had these opinions that he was very vocal about, and Bunky was not out at the beginning of the game, and he confided in those like hurtful thoughts to Bunky, and so there's this whole plot about Bunky coming out, and a lot of things that now would not be acceptable were used as plot points. Like, that season is famous for having someone get kicked off of the show for getting really drunk and not threatening, but holding a knife up to a girl's throat that he was like kissing. And he was invited back after he left for an interview with Julie.
Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting to see where the show has come from. I think also there's something to be said about there being more real experiences like that. That since it wasn't as, and I'm not, since it wasn't as, I hesitate to say PC. It wasn't as PC now as maybe the editing sometimes makes it out to be, right, where they breeze over some of the more crass things that the house guests say.
Yeah.
Maybe you were able to see it more in its raw form back in the day. So that's probably something very interesting, an interesting difference between old Big Brother and new Big Brother.
Totally. I mean, Carly, you were the only one of the three of us who actually completed last season. What do you like? What do you like make of all of that? Like, how it's just so, you watch the live feeds and the program, and it's all different. What do you think of all that?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy because I think they tried for a long time to ignore it, but we just haven't seen something of that scale since maybe season 15. So I think they just like got to a point where they really had to address it, and that's when you know it's bad because 99% of the time they'll just ignore it when those house guests say things like that. And of course everyone's going to know who has Twitter that people are saying these things, but yeah, it was, it's bad when it makes it onto
Right.
the show.
And just to clarify, if there are folks who haven't really been keeping up with the BBC, but season 21 had a lot of very racist guests that actually had a lot of the power. And they, made it miserable for a lot of Black people and people of color to live in the house. And so that's what we're talking about. But
Well, I have a couple more questions just to kind of get an idea of what we all get out of Big Brother, because I know with some people that's a little different than others. So I want to know, in your opinion, what makes a good season of Big Brother and what makes a good player? So how about Carly? We'll start with you.
I love to see a season where the power shifts often. It's just so boring to watch a season where it's just the same side of the house just picking the other side off one by one. And I guess to establish that in the first place, I like to see a house that picks sides and just has two sides that are just hacking it out, you know? I don't like to see the people where it's wishy-washy and they don't pick sides, they don't join groups, they just kind of are there. Like, no, we want to see the two sides, we want to see the power shift. You know what I mean? And we want to see something new and unexpected each week.
yeah, it's a good point. I think my answer is a little different than that. While I think the two sides hashing it out is entertaining, I think my favorite is when everyone is their own agent. And what I mean by that is there are alliances and sides being formed, but they change and evolve very quickly. And I think that why I'm thinking like that is because I went back and watched season 2, where often there's a lot of loyalty shifting. Often people are very loyal to one person, but when they make groups, it kind of shifts and ebbs and flows, and people are more receptive to hearing deals, which I really enjoy. That there's this kind of mistrust in everybody, so even the people you think you trust, you don't actually trust them as much as you think, and it's kind of level with the people you think you don't trust. Like Dr. Will. I mean, everyone hated him at one point in the house. Everyone wanted him out, but they never voted him out because he was able to talk to them. So that's what I like, a player who keeps their options open and is just maybe is loyal, not that they're backstabbing or vindictive, but they're really considering and not afraid to take a deal.
I agree. I like to see a good flip every now and then.
That's true. So my answer kind of fits very nicely next to yours. I agree. I think a more dynamic house where alliances are in flux so it can be more interesting to watch. I'm going to compare two very beloved seasons. Season 10 versus season 12. So in season 10, along with it being one of the most chaotic seasons I've ever seen, you never quite knew where alliances stood because the lines were constantly blurred from week to week. People would work with other players if it benefited them. There wasn't really a big loyalty throughout most of the game. Between some players, there were loyalty. Between Keisha and Rennie, there was pretty big loyalty between them, and they wouldn't really vote each other, for example. But for the most part, Big Brother 10 was really dynamic with their alliances, and everybody was playing. Everybody in that game was playing. I think most people, for example, in Big Brother 12, are playing, but there was one really strong alliance, the Brigade, that kind of transformed how Big Brother was played after the Brigade. There's like post-Brigade Big Brother and pre-Brigade Big Brother. They kind of brought that strong alliance dynamic to the game, I feel. That was the defining moment. And when there are two strong alliances going back and forth, shifting power like Carly described, it can be interesting. It can keep you on the edge of your seat. But often it can be one alliance that dominates the rest of the game. And that, to me, is not as interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I like to see, like, multiple strong alliances. There's always people in the middle, and that's interesting to me, too, because it's, like, what you guys were saying, it's more dynamic. Like, the people in the middle, what are they going to do each week? It's kind of, like, it reminds me of Johnny Mac.
Right.
What season was he in?
17. From season 17.
Yeah, I really liked Johnny Mac.
I remember you liked him.
It kind of reminds me of Johnny Mac from season 17, where he kind of was... I don't know if he was even playing both sides of the house, per se, but he just kind of did what benefited him because he wasn't really in with either of the groups. Maybe I just really like him because he was a dentist and he was cool, but...
He was really entertaining, for sure.
Totally, yeah.
He was one of my favorite players in Big Brother season 17. Finally, I'd like to ask you guys, who is your favorite player in Big Brother? Kind of a big question, and it's okay if you don't have an answer. Yeah. And do you think that there's another player who has a better game that isn't necessarily your favorite? For me, my favorite house guest to watch was probably Amanda Zuckerman from season 15. I love a brutally honest person, even when it doesn't benefit their game. She was always entertaining to watch. She always had a comment that made me laugh. Even if she isn't necessarily the best person to ever play Big Brother, especially in that season 15, which was like almost, if not the same level of racist as season 21.
Yeah.
She was always entertaining to watch. But I think the player with the best game, and this isn't going to make anybody surprised to hear, is Dan from season 10. And he was certainly also entertaining to watch, but for different reasons than Amanda.
Totally.
Carly, what do you have a favorite player?
I know Carly's favorite.
Yeah. We all know. My favorite house guest just in the history of Big Brother is hands down Nicole Franzel from season 16 and 18. I think part of it is I just relate to her so hard. So she was just so sweet and fun for me to watch. Especially in season 16 when she was just like having a good time. I know a lot of people criticize her game, especially in season 18, but I kind of liked that she kind of played a more laid-back role and was still able to be successful with that. I think the player with the best game, I agree with Dan, for sure, and I'll put in a close second of Derek. I really liked watching Derek just run the house. I know he was often really, what word am I looking for?
A bit of a narc.
I know Derek was
de-escalating.
Yeah, I know. De-escalating. I know Derek was often de-escalating a lot of the drama and probably made it a little bit of a less fun season to watch. But honestly, season 16 kind of had a lot going for it, even with that.
Totally.
So.
I think my favorite, well, I know my favorite. I'm trying to decide about the game. Because there are 3 contenders, and 2 of them you've already said. But my favorite, first and foremost, is Mama Day. Come on, you can't not have Mama Day. She's the meme. She's the face of Big Brother. Like, I love Mama Day. I love watching her. Every second she's on the screen is great. And when I'm watching 17 and 18, every second she's not on the screen is not as great. But yeah, I love Mama Day. I just love her personality, and the personalities really get me on this show. She did sometimes tend to be a little more neutral. But, she was fun to watch, and that's why I really like her, and I think she's a great house guest. I think that probably the one with the best game, 2, obviously you guys, but I want to throw in Dr. Will. He was an all-star, and season 2 was phenomenal. And if you ever saw his speech in the season he, almost won by 7, I believe.
Season 7.
I mean, just phenomenal. I haven't seen 7, but I've seen clips. I know what happens, and I just think Dr. Will's another good contender. And the fact that he says, all I do is lie. I lie, tell 1,000 lies a day, and maybe someone will believe 3 of them. It's just so funny. He was so fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I have watched the clip of that speech. And I just love it.
Yeah.
I haven't watched either of his seasons, but I would have to agree from what I've heard and what I've seen in these clips that he's got to be one of the best people to play this game.
I agree. Obviously.
One of the best supervillains as well.
Yeah, totally. The idea of a supervillain was kind of I think he kind of created it.
Yeah. I mean, coming from season 1 into season 2 with a player like him, yeah, I think he did kind of create it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move into the next portion. So next I want to talk about the rumored cast list. So Big Brother 22 is doing a live cast reveal for the first time ever in Big Brother history. Instead of all of the interviews, instead of all the interviews being released ahead of time, it's going to be live, which is new. Mm-hmm. But there have been some leaks, some rumors, so we can talk about which rumor we really want to be true. As a lover of Big Brother 10, I really want Keisha to be a true rumor. But I think that that's one of the least likely ones of the rumored. Who are y'all excited for?
Personally, would be so excited to see Janelle back in the house. I know Homegirl's been in there like 3 times already, but she's such a competition beast. She's so fun to watch. I love watching her go at it with people. And I would love to see how she would approach this season, because she's done it like 3 times and she's gotten so far each time. I would love to see if her strategy changes at all.
I think if they truly wanted if they went all out for this all-star season, I really hope that Janelle is in there.
Yeah, it would be crazy for someone to be doing it 4 times. That's just nuts to think about. Big Brother's basically your life at that point.
I know. That's a lot of summers.
Are you excited for Nicole? Nicole Franzel from season 16 and 18, your favorite player?
I would love to see her on it again, just because she's fun for me to watch. And I've heard her talk about on her podcast how CBS, the production, everyone just really likes her. And I can see why. She's kind of one of those America's sweetheart kind of people, you know? Because I know I've heard her talk about her 2 seasons compared to each other before, and how she had a really great time on 16, and then on 18, I think you can see why she didn't have a great time, because everyone kind of went after her from the beginning. But I feel like with an all-star cast, I feel like she would not be one of the people that they would go after right at first, you know? And now that she knows everyone, that's kind of an interesting part of the all-star thing in the modern day, is they all know each other at this point. So it would be cool to see her, like, have fun in this season to kind of redeem the damage that season 18 did for her. I love her, but I don't know if she would have the strat to win it, but I would love to see her in the house again, just so we can get more airtime with Nicole in there.
I'm excited to see the potential of Nicole being in the house, purely because I want to see Nicole's game without a showmance.
Totally.
Both times she was in the house, she had a showmance, and I want to see how she does without that. I think, I know this is my opinion, and I will probably say it multiple times on this podcast. I hate showmances. I don't like them. I don't think they're good for your game, and I don't think they're particularly interesting. Until there is a gay showmance in the house, I will not like them. Because it's just not, I don't think it's particularly interesting, or I don't want to say fair. I do want to say fair, but at the same time, there's nothing fair about Big Brother. But I'm excited to see Nicole, the prospects of Nicole playing without that crutch.
That's such a good point. I didn't even think of that. That's a really good point. I would love to see her go at it solo and, like, not have just that one person to rely on, you know?
Now, Jessica, I raise you. You say showmances aren't interesting. I raise you Jody.
You're going to have to be more specific, my dude.
I raise you Jessica and Cody from season 19. That was the whole meatball and with Josh and the your meatball, like that. They're just the like defiance and the battle back of Cody, and just the like attitude from Jessica, and oh my lord, there was so much drama with those two, and you know now they're together and they're having. I think they have a baby now, and I think they're married. And it was just so funny to watch them. And just some of Cody's facial expressions. But I think it's just because of the personalities, you know.
I don't begrudge people meeting.
For sure.
I don't begrudge people meeting and falling in love on Big Brother. But I do think that there are so many that don't last beyond the house. And I think it's more of a survival tactic for people to just cling to somebody. There are showmances that I have enjoyed watching that just make no sense to me whatsoever. But I think overall, definitely more often than not, they're a little bit of dull to me.
I see. Now let's talk about a few other rumored cast listers.
Right.
Obviously, Mama Day is rumored. I hope she comes back. That would be fantastic. I hope I see her game grow and her bring some more strategy into the house. But more importantly, I want her to bring herself into the house. And that leads me, I guess, to kind of who I was talking about before. I'll take a double here, everyone. Josh, the meatball himself, is rumored. I hope he's on. I mean, I know that if it's anything like last time, they need people who've won, and he did win, and he won a very interesting season. The season with, I think, a very prominently bitter jury. There's also someone who's been rumored, who's very related to Josh from 19, that Carly, who's that?
It's Paul, of course.
Carly loves Paul.
You know, in retrospect, I gotta say...
By loves, I mean does not like.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've had a lot of time to think about that. And I think you have to admit he makes it really interesting to watch. I don't really like his bullying. But that's just me being
I don't
wimpy.
like his bullying either, and I was watching 19, I was frustrated the whole time. So, not the whole time, but some of the time.
I agree. It kind of goes... I don't know. I think for me, it makes it just a tad bit less interesting when they all just gang up on one person and then get them out. Like, okay, congratulations. You all hated that person and now they're gone. Like, what are you going to do now? You know, who cares?
So Paul's the reason that I did not watch season 19. I just could not stand to watch all the players just believe everything he said. The production... Now, this is going to get a little spicy here, but production basically handed Paul the game on a silver platter. And the only reason he didn't win is because of a bitter jury, which I don't begrudge them for that, to be honest. The way, the way they all just fell one after the other for everything he was saying is just wasn't interesting to me to watch. It's probably one of the least interesting seasons of all time. And if he comes back, it just proves that they really want Paul to win, right? However, I think that this list of players, if Paul does play, will not act like season 19. And I don't know, they might even get him out first if he's in the house.
I agree. I think these rumored cast members are too smart for that. But yeah, I agree with what you were saying about season 19. I feel like that was why Jess and Cody were interesting in the house, is because they were like the only people trying to stand up to him. And then once they left, I remember watching that season, and once they left, I made myself keep watching it, but I really didn't want to anymore once they got out.
That was kind of my opinion too. When they left, a big chunk of my interest went down. So, what about another couple of players that we're interested in who have been rumored?
Well, Casey and Tyler from season 20
Woohoo.
are rumored to be in the house, which I'm not mad about. I think, well, I have a question. As we all know, they had a final 2 and they made it to the final 2 in their season. Do you think that they will make a reprise of that?
I 100% think they would at least make a final 2. I don't know if they would make it. Again, I think this house would be too smart to let that happen. But I definitely think that they would go back to each other for sure.
I think because they're such good friends, I agree. However, I think if Tyler really wanted to win it, maybe that would not be the smartest thing for his game. Although, who knows? This is not... If the rumored list is true, I don't peg this as a bitter jury. So, if he plays a good game, he might have a chance with Casey. Because I think, if these players were the players of 20, that Tyler might have won, and not Casey.
I agree with that. I do like Casey. So I am a lesbian, and I like that a lesbian won Big Brother, and she was the first. We'll ignore season 15's winner. First gay person to win Big Brother, at least Big Brother US. I could be wrong about that, but that was my feelings. So yeah, I would look forward to both of them entering the house. I do think Tyler played a better game than Casey, and he was a victim to a bitter jury, but I certainly wasn't all that mad about his second place.
I just really liked watching Casey. Like, just her athleticism and her kindness. She was never not Casey, which is something that I think I value a lot in a player.
Yes, I did like that about her, but she wasn't the most interesting player to watch of that season.
Totally.
By any stretch. I could go on about all the beautiful mishaps of that season. One of the dumbest, and I say this with
so much
affection,
love.
one of the dumbest alliance probably in BB history.
Oh, but you love them. You love Faute. Oh, they're so good. My beautiful idiots. I love you all.
So, do you guys have any impression of the cast list overall? There's something I've noticed about this cast list. Coming out of Big Brother 21, as we have touched upon, cast littered with racism and just ganging up on all of the minorities in the house, especially, do you remember Camp Comeback? Yeah, it's Camp Comeback. There's a picture that I saw on Twitter that somebody had of the 3 who got out. First, of course, that would be David. It was David, Ovi, and...
David, Ovi, Kemi.
I think were the 3. And then the last one was...
Cliff?
No, it wasn't Cliff. Because he was still in the house later.
Oh, wait, you mean the first 4 evicted? I think it was just
3. Was it just 3? Oh, Cliff did return. I thought it was David who returned. It was Cliff, you're right. So the first 3 people evicted in Big Brother 21 were all of the black and brown people in the house. David, Kemi, and Ovi. And there's a really interesting picture on Twitter of the 3 of them. And the quote was "Camp Minority," and I think that just illustrates how this alliance of, for the mostly white people, just were saying really horribly racist things about everybody in Camp Comeback, and just it was so bad. It got so bad that Julie had to call them out on it, even though they weren't showing what they were saying on the episodes, but you could hear all of it on the live feeds. Just horrible. The thing I noticed about this cast is that most of the people, I say most of the people, are like the nice people of their season. Nicole, from both seasons 18 and 21, were the nice ones on their season. Casey was nice. Tyler, I mean, he played the game, but he was also very nice. He had good relationships with pretty much everybody in the house. Cody, I remember being very nice. Most of these people are relatively PC people. And I'm not saying that derogatory. I'm just noticing either casting intentionally recruited those people, or this was just happened to be the mix of people that agreed to be on Big Brother in this era of COVID-19. So it could be one or the other, but I'm just speculating. Maybe there's a reason that this is the rumored cast list. What are your thoughts?
I agree with that.
Honestly, it would be a smart move on their part for casting to pick people that they know aren't going to be inflammatory and get people all riled up, Like, they had enough of that last season, so they don't want more of that negativity on the show.
Definitely. Yeah, last season, man, if you watch the live feeds, it was way different than what they showed. Production and the people who made the show took a lot of stuff out, and it was to save face, of course, but I don't know if they adjusted very well. And one of the guys who was the main contributors of all this racist comments and microaggressions and hate talk was the guy who won. And, if you look at those pictures, like I said, I stopped watching halfway through that season. I boycotted a little bit. But I did see that picture of, what was his name? The guy who won.
Jackson. They called him Mickey in the house,
right.
But his name was Jackson.
Right. The picture of Mickey's face when he won is different. If you have not seen it, go look it up right now. It is way different than everyone else's winning shot. And you'll see why. But no, I agree with you, Jess. I think that this list, if this is a correct list, it could be wrong. It could be a false spoiler, right? I know some people do that. They leak the wrong set of lists. But if this is right, then I agree. I'm excited because this is, well, except for the lack of LGBT representation.
Well, that's every season.
That's every season, and it's getting better. They went away from season 2, of course, where you have one gay person in the house. But besides that, I think this will be a better season, and I don't think, my prediction is we're not going to see a lot of showmances form, whereas in every season you see a couple of people or 3 people pairing off. I think this one, none. Because a lot of these people are married or are in relationships that everyone knows about. So this is going to be 100% game 100% of the time.
Yes, I agree with you there. I'm very excited about the prospect of there being no showmances.
Now, Jessica, one thing you said that is getting me is interesting. I know we planned on doing this, but we can just kind of segues into, what do you think of kind of the Big Brother under COVID-19?
Yeah, I think when I found out that they were going to do the show, for a while I thought it had been canceled. So it came as a surprise to me that they were actually doing this season. And then I read up a little bit on some of the precautions they're taking. They quarantined, and they're testing the contestants frequently, and they quarantined them. I think that they're probably going to have to continue the test throughout the show. I think that would be the best way to go about it. It's interesting to think about everything that goes into this show, because it's not just the contestants, right? You have to think about production.
Yeah.
They have to be quarantined too. And if they're not, they could easily infect the cast. Here's another interesting thing about this season. There will be no face-to-face contact for our cast and crew.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right? So the players, the house guests, are not going to come into contact with the cast. And I know, well, it's speculated that there's a little bit of I've heard that there's a little bit of the production maybe, biased towards one or a group of house guests, maybe trying to stack the deck a little bit. You can watch Zach from season 16. He's very vocal about that aspect of the game and decide for yourself. But there will be no contact between production and the house guests. So that's going to make for an interesting season. I think these house guests already will play the game in a way that's entertaining. So maybe they're not as worried about keeping it interesting. Because we have to remember this is a TV show, right?
Yeah, a lot of the times on these reality TV shows, as I'm sure everyone watching Big Brother is aware, that there's a lot of instigation by production to stir drama so that they can make, 3 interesting TV shows a week. Now, Big Brother, you have the opportunity to watch a lot of these things live. So, I struggle with how much of it is real, how much of it is, production instigating or cutting things a certain way, and you really don't, they can spin it, and you see that with 21. They can spin it, the narrative, to what they want with editing. Now, I love Big Brother, and I think that is probably not done a whole lot in this show as compared to other reality TV shows, especially with the, live cameras. They can kind of be fact-checked a little bit, and with the introduction of things like Twitter, and today, a lot of people are talking about it, information is shared quickly, so you don't really have to watch the live feeds to know what goes on in the live feeds.
I gotta say, to go along with the idea of Big Brother All-Stars in the era of pandemic, I think it's exactly what I need personally, selfishly. I have been so bored because we had a little bit of a mini break, and we were so bored, my roommates and I. We watched 5 episodes of Game of Thrones the other day.
Dream.
5.
What season?
We finished season 4 and started season 5.
Some people think that's the decline. Not that we're on a Game of Thrones podcast or anything, but...
But this is what I'm saying, is I need something new to kind of break up the boredom a little bit.
I agree with that. I'm excited for a new season after last summer of me ignoring the show. I'm excited for this season, definitely, of All-Stars. It's what they needed, maybe. Maybe they needed it to break their funk as well.
I agree. I think this was a great move on their part, and I'm so excited to watch it. If the lists that are circulating online is true, I'm very excited. Now, do we want to talk about the house?
Yeah. So recently...
Wait, do you guys want to talk about Memphis?
Sure.
Okay.
I just think
we have a
I
Memphis story, and I think Jessica and I tried to get out of it, but Carly is, I agree, we should say it.
Insists. Right. So, Memphis is a player from Big Brother 10. He was the runner-up. Memphis is distantly related through marriage.
Twice. like 2 marriages.
Twice removed.
Yeah, really distant.
2 marriages. Super duper distant.
Like
I've never met Memphis.
Cousins, brothers. It's like that kind of thing. Husband.
Right. I have never met Memphis, or as he goes by Garrett when he's not in Big Brother. But my stepsister has, so maybe if we can get a hold of him.
Maybe. This is a bit wide speculation for someone who's never met the man before, but there's a possibility.
Right. It's not impossible.
Right. And he is on the speculated guest list, so if he's unavailable, we might know why.
Yeah. That's true. Yes. So that would be an exciting interview if we could get that going, but we shall see.
Totally. Well, yesterday, right now we're recording on the 4th, Although for Jess, it's the 5th, because she's in Japan. Yesterday for us, for Carly and I, CBS dropped the Big Brother All-Stars house. And so we all just watched this today, right before we hopped on this call. And I am blown away by how beautiful this house looks.
Yes, the house this season is, I mean, it looks like it looks like a different house altogether. They walked into the kitchen and I couldn't even recognize it. I was like, where is this? It's super bougie. I think Carly had an interesting theory about why it looks the way it does.
Yeah, I really think it had to have been a part of the contract, or at least the draw for these house guests to come back. Because if you think about it, isn't this going to be filming until like October? Like, it's going to be kind of a full-length season, just kind of pushed back, right? So these house guests have to give up a lot now that they have like real lives and they've been away from Big Brother, for some of them, for so long. You know, it has to take a lot to get some of these guys back, I think.
You know what I just thought of? What if the prize money is bigger too?
Oh.
Do you think it could be?
I don't know. I think for a lot of the people that are on the speculated list, they're super fans. So I think that being on the show again is kind of a pull for them, because it was a dream, and then maybe some of them want a second chance at victory, right? For example, Tyler is who I'm mostly thinking of. I think a big super fan would already want to be on the show. Maybe they wouldn't need the money as a, oh God, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Incentive.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of Tyler, someone like Tyler, self-described superfan. They wouldn't need a whole lot of money as incentive to come on the show again. But it is, hard times, so I think that will definitely affect the cast list. And I agree with you, Carly. I think it will affect their contracts for sure. That's why maybe the house looks so good. Has all these, there's just beds everywhere. Like, the whole thing just looks like one giant bed. I would be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if they said no have-nots, or if the have-not room is just like, oh, here's a couple.
Room.
Right. Maybe.
It would be a twin bed instead of a queen bed.
Instead of your California
instead of the king plus.
You get a double.
Right. Yeah. So I'm interested in seeing what the have-not room looks like.
I feel like Big Brother is finally starting to embrace the fact that the house guests are just not going to do anything except lay around.
Yeah, that's really, if you are a watcher of the live feeds, you will find that almost every time you tap into that live feed, they're in bed. Like, almost always they're just laying around. Sometimes they work out.
Do you remember?
But
I don't remember which season it was now, but one time they made them wear like wristbands.
Yes.
And like it would track their movements, and they got some sort of incentive for like getting up.
I am fairly certain that was season 16. It was either season 16 or 18, because I definitely remember Nicole losing that challenge.
Oh, yes, it was. And Derek talked about it a lot. Oh, yeah. Yes. I remember watching that and feeling, and just being like, man, everyone's going to call them lazy. That's so sad. Like,
well, at least in Nicole's,
they just have to embrace it.
Yeah, at least in Nicole's case, I can definitely tell you, especially those episodes, I always saw her in bed. Like, she was, kind of lazy. This house reminds me of Big Brother, Celebrity Big Brother, season 2, where in order to get the Olympic swimmer Ryan, they put in an Olympic endless pool in the house, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that was part of his contract.
Oh, for sure.
Everything, of course, everything we say is just opinion.
Speculation.
Just opinion. Speculation. Yeah. Allegedly. Yes. But then I think Ryan went home real quick, right? If I remember correctly. And all that money they spent on that endless pool, I hope they could return it.
Ooh. Can we get our money back on this one, please? Thank you.
Right.
No, they could auction that.
I remember thinking that was so funny.
Buy it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. So we are going to be creating a website for this podcast and posting it hopefully on Spotify soon. For now, it will probably end up on YouTube. And we will link on the description to all of our individual social medias where you can reach us. Email if you have questions. And yeah, we'll be doing this hopefully weekly. We will be talking about the latest week in Big Brother for Big Brother 22.
We're trying to get on Spotify as soon as we get that website up. You can find us on Spotify at Big Sister.